I'd like to welcome everybody to this session of the Citizens' Assembly. My name is Tom Arnold. I was the chair of the Constitutional Convention during 2012-2014, and I'm delighted to be involved in this Citizens' Assembly. My role today is very simple. I'm going to introduce three people who will bring important insights to the matters under discussion: social protection, pensions, tax, family-friendly and flexible working arrangements. Each will tell their own story and make recommendations as to how things could be better than they are at present. The three speakers are Finian Murphy, Mary Walsh, and Kathy Cunningham. Finian is married with a family, his wife Siobhan, his son Tom, and daughter Joy. And now over to you, Finian, to tell your story.
Hello, thank you, Tom, and thank you all for allowing me to contribute to this assembly. My name, as Tom mentioned, is Finian Murphy. I'm a dad. I'm married to Siobhan, my wife. We have two children. Joy is one, Tom is four, and I'm also a marketing director for a communications company based in Ireland. Growing up, I had a very safe and happy childhood. I was fortunate to have two loving parents. Each cared for me and encouraged me to try my best. However, as a child of the 80s, it was clear that women looked after the family and men were expected to be the breadwinner. Cultural and policy changes in the 90s, which encouraged women to join the workforce. As a teen, I always assumed a man's role was exclusively for his work or career. I never pictured or imagined what it would be like to be a dad, let alone a carer. I could picture working in business, playing sport, cultural life, leading in society, but caring, that was never suggested as a man's role. However, fortunately, a lot has changed in terms of perception, but attitudes can subtly remain. I openly discuss parenting with my mates, and workplaces are becoming a lot more friendly towards working dads. When my son was born 4 years ago, I quickly realized the benefit of spending time with him, and also how little time I could end up spending with him if I put everything into my work and to my career. So after much consideration and being in a privileged position to work with my workplace, my wife and I agreed to share as best we could the childcare responsibility. We both agreed part-time flexible work contracts in order to share the responsibility of the kids. And so for over 3 years, I've had the balance of paid work on projects I really enjoy with a great company and a great bunch of people, and also unpaid work at home with my family, also a great bunch of people and company. As I describe to people, it can tend to be where there are days where I'm in the boardroom in the morning and playground in the afternoon. And that in itself, that balance has been a huge eye-opener. Now, not every job type or workplace can facilitate this approach to work, but I found this balance between career and care as being really beneficial, both personally and professionally. I find I'm more productive in my work hours and more creative and bring a new lens to the projects that I'm working on. My son and daughter's curiosity encourages me to look at business problems or societal problems in different ways. And managing tantrums at home is a great lesson for working with people during tense moments in any organization. In our teens and 20s, men are taught to compete at any cost, to push away any moment to care for others. But despite this, many good men are fantastic at caring and coaching people, leading in sport, voluntary groups, culture and society. There are individuals that are proving that men do really care. But our society needs to create more space and time to unlock that skill in all of us. The challenges of the future, from climate crisis to poverty, it needs more collaboration, more empathy, and more emotional intelligence. So my suggestion, recommendation to the Assembly is to consider raising more awareness of men who value care, not competition. Can we give voice to a new type of man, a generation who's contributing to business and society while also creating value in our communities and being responsible for the important role of care. In the future, I look forward to talking about care sharers and not caregivers, and bread sharers and not breadwinners. Thank you all for your attention. It's been a real honour to contribute to the Citizens' Assembly. Your work is really important, and thank you for shaping the future. Take care.
Finian, thank you very much indeed for that very vivid testimony. We're now going to move on to Mary Walsh. Mary started work in the civil service in 1967 and worked there until 1972, when she had to resign due to the then marriage bar. She's now reached the stage of retirement, but I'm sure she's doing many more things than that. Mary, we'd like to hear your story.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, all. My name is Mary Walsh. I live with my husband in Kerry. We're both retired now, but we have reared 5 children, and they're all flown the nest and all doing their own thing. I started working in the civil service in 1967, and I got married in 1972. At that time, a girl had to leave work because of the marriage bar. So employment was very difficult to come by. And after a couple of years, my husband and myself moved back to Kerry. And employment was as bad, if not worse, here. So we reared our children, and in 1986, I started working voluntary with the local credit union, and until 1995, when I got part-time work with the credit union. That went on until 2002, I think, when I got full-time employment. So I worked there until 2013, and because of the recession at that stage, redundancies were brought about. So in February 2013, I became redundant. So the rest of 2013 and 14, very little work, if any. In 2015, I was lucky enough to get on a CE scheme. So then, come March 2016, it was pension time. So I wasn't allowed my full pension, because at that stage they were going, and it's still the case, I suppose, they were going back to 1967 to start my working life. So from 1967 to 2016 was 47 or 8 years, I think. And when that was averaged out, I didn't have enough stamps to give me a full pension. So what happened after that? The stamps I put up in the civil service back in 1967 weren't, even though 1967 was the start of my working life, the stamps I put up were not allowed as part of my working life, if you know what I mean. So them 4 years that I worked in the civil service, I had no stamps. So that reduced my pension. So I was €35 short. So when Joan Burton then, in the 2012 changes, she made things very difficult for us, for our age group. And when Regina Doherty brought the changes about later, that was a help, because she brought in 20 years of caring, but she disallowed the rectable stamps that we had put up, if we were unemployed or out sick. So our caring credits were very helpful. But like a summary of my life was, I was forced out of work when I got married, and the reason being that I'm a woman. I wasn't entitled to a gratuity. I am not entitled to even the smallest amount of a civil service pension. I'm not allowed to take the stamps for my 4 years in the civil service into account for pension purposes. The 2012 changes didn't even give a thought to those of us who were on the pension doorstep. They gave me a full pension after about 9 months waiting for it, and then 2 months later they took it from me again and reduced it by €35. They didn't allow my reckonable credits to be taken into account. And while Regina Doherty's decision was welcome and I got €20 a week more, but still I was short 15, it didn't go far enough for my age group. It didn't go far enough for many people, men and women, who spend most of their lives caring for children, maybe a special needs child, maybe their parents, and they saved the state millions of euros, and now they're left without maybe a pension or a full pension. So my recommendations would be that people who are caring for more than 20 years should be allowed to use their full amount of caring years plus their reckonable credits. That women that worked in civil service prior to 1973 and forced to leave work should at least be allowed count in those years for pension purposes. That a discussion should take place between the Minister for Finance and the women of that era and at least grant them the dignity that they deserve. Minister Paschal O'Donoghue admitted on TV that what happened to women in the workforce before 1973 was wrong, but that it would cost too much to fix it. Why doesn't he try and at least grant them the full weekly pension? Back pay is a separate issue, and women have never been found unreasonable. Thank you all for listening. Lovely meeting you all.
Mary, thank you very much indeed. That's a very, very important story. I'd now like to go to Kathy Cunningham. Kathy is a single parent who's studying in Maynooth University, is studying English, psychology, sociology, and law, and she's also a freelance writer. Kathy, over to you, please.
Okay, so I have some recommendations on the back of my own personal experiences as a working single parent. My first recommendation is on childcare cost barriers for working parents. My recommendation here is that consideration be given to the barriers to work when creches are needing €800 deposits to secure a place for a child so that a single parent can get back into full-time work, and that €800 deposit being a definite barrier for a lot of families back to work. Another recommendation I have is on training and education for single parents. So One Family are an organisation that supports one parent families. They are formerly Cherish. They run the New Futures programme. That's a FETAC Level 4 course in personal development and career planning. The course is currently only provided in Dublin, and One Family are trying to get the course online so it can reach more people across the country. I recommend that the government get behind One Family on rolling out that programme to single parents outside of Dublin who would like to take part in that course, and that could be the bridge between unemployment and college, or the bridge to a new career for some families, like it has been my family's experience. I am repeating a recommendation from earlier around flexibility or amended hours for working parents getting back into work. And without repeating that too much, I just want to echo the sentiment of the value that parents bring back to the workplace in terms of their communication skills, and just a lot of the transferable skills from parenting to the workplace there's value in that. It's not just parenting kind of having an impact on work in a negative way. And another recommendation I have is that there's government finance available for parents to go back into education through the Student Assistance Fund, and part of those government funds are allocated through channels, through the likes of St. Vincent de Paul, and in my opinion, those government funds should only be allocated through government channels and not those side organisations. And that's on the back of my own personal experience where that was quite messy. That was a messy and stressful experience for me. Another recommendation I have is around respect and dignity when accessing Department of Social Protection payments for working parents. An area I would seek change for working and studying single parents is around the fact that in Blanchardstown, for an example, the one parent family payment can only be collected in cash at the post office each week. And the time and energy saving solution here, I feel, is to let those who want to receive payments through the bank do so. I feel that seeing women and children queue for cash payments outside the door of the post office in the cold winter months is to me a really avoidable situation in 2020. On one side, we're telling single parents to have the confidence to look an employer in the eye at a job interview, and on the other side of that, we're making them line up outside the post office and hope nobody sees them. I feel that's embarrassing, and I feel that family finance is a private matter, and that the act of standing outside the post office in a line of mothers and children is very public display that a family is accessing finance that they need. I feel that's quite avoidable. And I wanted just to give positive remarks on the theme of government, parenting and families. Seeing the human side and the parental side of some of our prominent politicians through this COVID working from home period that we've been through has been lovely. It's been really good to see examples of politicians representing people who are balancing parenting and working. It was great to see parents, examples being Mary Lou McDonald and Simon Harris, both opening up on social media and bringing the balance of parenting responsibilities and career into the public domain in a positive light. We love to see that politicians are people too, and it just demonstrated for me that being a working parent is not something that reflects poorly on your career necessarily, and how society sees you in terms of your productivity and contribution to the economy. So that was really nice for me to see, and I hope that made sense.
Kathy, thank you very much indeed. I want to thank all of you, Finian, Mary, and Kathy, for really fascinating contributions and deeply held views based on your own life experience. And I think it's over to the citizens to think about what relevance these contributions have and what you're likely going to recommend into the future. Thank you very much.